I can see people are joining already. So welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome. We'll be starting in a couple of minutes. So just a little patience. Still waiting for our guest to come, and well, we are still way ahead of time, so no worries yet. When you join, please do me this favor, share the link. If you know students, if you know persons who are interested in career choices, do share the links, guys. Send them far and wide so we can get as many eyes to this discussion as possible. I think it's going to be a great one, so please do share it. We will be starting the live exactly at 7 p.m. So just a few more seconds and we'll get going. Okay. All right. So I think we can start now. It's 7 p.m. Guys, I'm ready and welcome to Rain with Numbers. I'm very happy to have you with me this evening. We have a special guest with us today. Soon we will be joined by Dr. Avinash Gupta, and he's going to tell us a lot, I believe. I've talked with him a little. He's going to tell us what it takes to do the career choices that we all have either had to make or we will have to make in the very near future. And I think he's in the waiting room already. I'll let him in. And yeah, I'm very excited to have him with us. So, hi, Avinash. I hope you can hear me.
Hi, Renee. So, can you hear me?
So there's a little lag in the connection. I think I can't hear you. Can you hear what I'm saying?
So, there has been some sort of lag here. Should I switch to data?
Let me see. I still can't hear you. For the audience, please, if you can hear what he's saying, could you just type something in the chat just to let me know everything is fine and I can't hear him at all.
Am I audible?
So if anybody can hear what Dr. Avinash is saying, please maybe just type a one so I know it's all good and fine. Just
So
in the comment
now
section.
I switched to data. I don't. I'm not using the Wi-Fi right now. So, Renee, if you can hear me, I guess the other listeners from your channel would be able to hear as well.
Okay. Okay. It seems everyone but me can hear you, Avinash. So let me see. Let me see what is going on with my microphone.
Interesting.
The fun of technology. Guys, just a second for me to figure this out and then we get going. For some reason, it won't let me edit this. But
I mean, I can hear you pretty well. Should I log out and log in again if that solves your purpose?
oh my God. It's funny that just seconds ago I could hear everything. Now it won't even let me. Okay. Dr. Avinash, could you please say something? Hopefully I can get you now.
Yes, testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.
So nothing still. Mm, okay.
I'm just gonna leave. I'm just gonna leave the session. Oh, so he can't hear me, so I'm just gonna.
Oh, I do hear you now. Okay.
Oh, hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so you
Finally,
just had
I can
to
hear you.
switch the microphone, right? I guess also probably the
The, the
output.
the funny thing with my setup is I have three devices connected to my computer. I have a camera, I have a microphone, and then I have this just so there is no echo. And all of these have both a microphone and a speaker. So there was a little bit of mix up. It wanted to speak through my my tabletop microphone, but that's not what I wanted because then I wouldn't hear anything. But hey guys, welcome once again. With us we have Dr. Avinash Gupta. He's going to be having this evening with us. I planned that we spend about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour together. And with him today, we'll be trying to discuss the career paths that we have had to face or we will have to face in the near future. This discussion today, for me, my intention is to drive it in a way that uh, it's very substantial, it's very important for students or for potential students, especially students who have the intention of furthering their careers in Germany. Dr. Avinash, I know that you did a PhD and now you're doing a postdoc. So I will be asking you what all of this experience have been, and we need a lot of advice from you. I personally am still just started my PhD. I'm still in my PhD journey. So I personally have a lot to learn. And I think that our audience probably will also stand to learn a few things. And for you guys in the audience, please prepare your questions. Don't be shy. If you have anything you'd like to ask Avinash or even me, I might be able to chip in a little that I know. If you have a few things that you'd like to hear from him or to get clarified about some doubts, anything, please feel free to ask this. Towards the end of our discussion, I will bring up the chat and we will try to answer as many of these as time permits. So, Dr. Gupta Avinash, before I go very deep into my rant, please could you tell our audience who you are, beside me just saying you are Avinash Gupta, who has a PhD? I know that's not enough. So please could you tell our
You
audience
just
the
stole my words. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Rennie, for inviting me. Yeah, so I just stole my words. I was gonna correct you that my first name is Avinash, last name is Gupta, not Gupta Avinash, but Avinash Gupta. But it doesn't matter. Yeah, you quickly just gave a brief introduction about me that I did my PhD and now I have finished my PhD. I'm doing something else now. So I started my journey with bachelor's and master's, the usual natural sciences route of starting your academic journey. So I did it in my home country, that was India. So I finished in life sciences, then started my PhD in life sciences. To be specific, the topic was forensic anthropology. And afterwards, I was not sure if I want to continue in academia, if I want to try something else. So I deviated a little from the path of usual academic journey, and I saw there were better opportunities. So I took the opportunity in the field of health sciences, and that's how I delved into industry.
Oh, I see. Just so our audience can have a proper idea what you just said. First, I think I may not have a perfect understanding of this. When we study as students, you finish your bachelor's, you go into a master's degree, and after this, most of us are faced with a choice. Do you go in for a PhD or do you go into the job market and start working right away? And if I understood you well, you said you decided to go into the PhD path of this. You made the choice to do a PhD. Okay, and yeah. So this the preliminary information I got from you was this was long ago, about 8 years ago. This is when you made this choice. This is a really difficult choice. I know this because like I said in the beginning, I am doing my PhD and I get to come in contact with students, and I get asked this question a lot. Students are trying to find out how is it like to do the PhD. Is it worth it? They always ask me these sort of questions. Is it difficult? Is it worth it? Is it stressful? These are the sort of things that I'll be trying to get and to pick your mind on tonight. Hear a little bit what your experience was because you've gone through this journey all the way to the end. You finished your PhD and you have a career afterwards. Man, that sounds like okay, okay. I wish I hope I get to that position soon. That sounds very fancy. But given that I'm still at this position, we will be forced to ask you a lot of questions. So, for our audience to be on the same playing field, could you just help explain the landscape to us a little better? What are these options that students have to face when they come to, say, at the level of having finished their master's degree? I just said go to work or a PhD, but maybe you could help elaborate a little more on that so they understand better.
So before I elaborate anything about what I did after my master's, I'm just going to briefly touch upon how my path forged after I finished my undergrad, so after I finished my bachelor's. So for a lot of people, they really want to decide based on the field and based on the city, based on the circumstances. Some actually try to be in the same field what they did their bachelor's in. They try to stay in the same stream when they choose their master's degree. And many actually look forward to the opportunity of something else because they did not like it or they have less opportunities. And accordingly, they choose their master's degree. But for me, it was a bit confusing because at that time I was not completely sure what I'm going to do in my life. And I think these days, young people have similar issues that they are completely unsure if this path that I am on, is it going to bring something in the long run? So while I was doing my bachelor's, for me, it was pretty much given that I would be doing a master's degree, but I was not 100% sure that I'm going to do in life sciences. Will I go do something else? But
Yeah.
then I realized instead of struggling to find something else, let's actually stay in the same stream. So I did my bachelor's in anthropology. And when you are at university, when you finish your bachelor's, in order to start your master's, you really have to struggle for a seat. So in India, the system is that you have to sit for an examination in order to get a seat in your master's degree. You did not get to start your master's degree right away. So,
Okay.
and I had the benefit that if you do your master's, if you do your bachelor's at a at the University of Delhi. And if you want to stay at the same university, at the same college, so you do not have to give this examination to get the master's degree seat. And of course, it was a win-win situation for me that I don't have to struggle, I don't have to do a lot of research to go somewhere else. And if I actually stay here, I don't have to sit for any examination to start my master's degree. But then the moment I started my master's degree, I realized just doing master's is also not enough if you want to stay in academia, because I really wanted to stay in academia at that time. And if you want to do something related to research, if you want to do something related to teaching, or even if you want to do something related to the technical side of research, which is laboratory management, PhD does come in handy. So, and this was somehow it all came down together to the fact that people around me, they were very sorted. They knew that, okay, after masters you have to do masters, after masters you have to do PhD. So I thought, okay, this is my part as well, I'm going to do the same thing, I mean what my peers are doing. Because back then I was not completely sure, and plus I don't have a lot of guidance from my parents. I don't have elder siblings, or I don't have many contacts. I didn't have many contacts at that point who could really guide me about research avenues, academic avenues, or industry opportunities. And while I was doing my master's, I was hell bent on finding a PhD position. So I was like, okay, this is the way in life. There is nothing else what you can do when you start studying natural sciences. Yes, I mean, for business, for engineering, after bachelor's degrees, there are opportunities. But for natural sciences, considering I wanted to do something related to biology, I was like, okay, this is the only path. Or you do MPhil, which is generally a degree, just like PhD, but shorter duration, and you find this kind of opportunity in mostly English-speaking countries. So,
Yeah.
and I was like, if I do not get a position for PhD, I might go for an MPhil. And at the University of Delhi, while the interviews or the organization or the structural changes were happening to get new PhD students enrolled, there were free seats or there were opportunities to start MPhil. I actually enrolled in the MPhil program at my university. And at that point, I was trying to find different ways to try other universities or other places apart from India. And I think I was applying for a PhD position everywhere, right from Canada to New Zealand, from Chile to Japan. And
Yeah, yeah.
somehow these two
Many of us have had to
paths,
do that. Yeah,
two
everywhere.
lines crossed in the middle in Europe, in Germany. And I was like, okay, this is it. If they are ready to take me, I would definitely fly. I would go to Germany, and I did not have any scholarship. So that's another story which I will come to after you see if you have any questions meanwhile in the chat.
Okay. Oh my, oh my. Hmm. I now get a clearer picture of what your journey have looked like. The first thing I'd say though is that listening to your experience, one key thing I picked was you didn't have a clear picture of what, like, this is what I must do before you even started trying to get into this path of doing a PhD. You said your initial idea was you wanted to be in academia. I guess you loved to teach or something like that. This is good because, well, this is good to hear that at the beginning you didn't have a clear path mapped out, but you kept forging forward. Because the questions I get from students, most students, they want to not want to, but they try to have a clear roadmap before they take the first step. So just listening to your story, it's encouraging to see that you don't have to have it all figured out at the beginning before you start this. So that's interesting. And you did all of your preliminary studies in India and you moved to Germany directly for your PhD position. This tells me that, okay, you might not have had so much exposure to the German job market at that stage. I see. Now I do understand. The picture is a bit more clearer to me now. Okay, I see. When I look at the situation here, I know that it's easier to fight for a spot in the job market here when you are already doing your master's studies here. Yes. Okay. But notwithstanding, yeah, yes.
Yeah, so I just wanted to touch upon this. Yes, I mean, if you are done with your masters in
Yeah.
Germany, if you are already in the country, so that would be a completely different scenario because you do have access to the job market, or at least you know
Yeah.
how things work around in this country.
Yeah.
So you would have a better perspective. You would have peers who could guide you on your path,
Yes.
and things were completely different at the universities here. So you don't even have to have a degree to access the job market, unlike other developing countries where you are nothing unless you get a degree in hand.
That's true. That's true. I'd expect that. And just a comment, guys. When I keep looking down, I have. I don't know if the camera can focus on this. I have a lot of questions I'd like to ask Avinash. So I keep looking down at my notes. I'm not ignoring you, and I also keep trying to manage to send the links and all of that. So if I look down, I'm not paying attention to a different conversation. I just have to force myself and multitask here. Having understood your picture, I think it's similar, or at least what we can pull from it that is very similar to most of the students we are encountering nowadays, no matter the country, is that you go through your studies, you get to the master's, and you get a master's degree. You have to make a choice. Do I do a PhD or do I go to the job market? It is this choice that I want us to talk a lot about tonight. The general trend is if you decide to go for a PhD, this is what we've casually said, you go into academia, because the thought is you go into a PhD, you get to do you get your doctorate and maybe move on to become a professor or get a career that is university based career. The other path is if after your masters you go straight into the job market, then you go into the industry, you get a position there and you build your career in the industry. I think both pathways are very feasible. It depends on what you want. But there are several factors that I think are very critical in making these decisions. You need to at least be aware of certain factors before you make a choice where to go to. And it's things like this that I'll be trying to at least gauge from your experience, and we pick the lessons that we can pick from there. Avinash, not just your experience, but your knowledge base, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So you decided to go in for a PhD, and you just said at the beginning you wanted to be in academia, but was there anything else beside this that motivated you to say, I'm going for a PhD and I'm not going to go into the job market? Or was it just the idea that you wanted to be in academia? What was your motivation? What was the factor that
I
made you make this decision, this choice?
So exactly at that point, I think I was about 22 as I was about to finish my master's, and at that point, I was not really keen on working. Not that I don't want to pay taxes. It's just that I was not ready to jump into the job market. I thought, okay, I'm still young. I do have some time to figure things out and see how things work out. And I was like, okay, you know what? So far, I do like what I'm studying. How about I give research a go, or
Yeah.
just try if I can actually do something in forensic sciences. The very fact that I joined bachelor's degree in anthropology and many others who were there in my class, they all grew up watching, TV drama, all these fancy police crime scenes and stuff like that. It does sound very childish, but people do come up with these things. Oh, I mean, that's why we came to this study program, and we started, taking classes or modules and seminars in anthropology. And I didn't know that I would have to study social sciences as well, the social anthropology. I was
Yes.
mostly focused on biological sciences. And by the time I did my master's, I had my specialization. So I chose the biological part. So you do get the opportunity in the master's degree where I was. Either you go for social sciences or you go for natural sciences in anthropology. So I chose the natural sciences. I did my master's and I did my dissertation in the forensic sciences. So I was like, this is the field. This is what I want to do. Even if I do want to start a job sometime in the future, like down the road, I would do it after my PhD. But this time, I really want to do some research. Who knows? My research would actually bring something greater for the society that could be helpful in crime scene investigation. So this was the motivation. And but of course, I mean, this is something that I have summarized, like, the experience or the thoughts of many years together. But at
Yeah,
every step, at every after every semester, there's something new that that occupies your mind. Oh, I could do this, I could do that as well. But if I have to summarize the entire question that you had,
yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
really motivated me to start my PhD, the long story short would be that I wanted to do something in research.
I see. That sounds. I've not told this story or this experience myself online, but the factor that was very important for me in choosing to do a PhD, because I did a master's degree. It was here in Germany. It was a 2 year program, and I moved immediately. I had my master's uh, dissertation on a Friday, and my PhD I started on Monday. So I moved very quickly from my master's into the PhD. And similar to what you said, I knew exactly that I wanted to do a PhD. My own motivation was that I stumbled into a research field called ion channel electrophysiology, and I really, really, I was mesmerized by this. I said I wanted to do this. So as I came and I started, as I started my master's studies, at the back of my mind, I knew exactly where I wanted to go to. I was lucky in this that I knew directly that I wanted to do a PhD. So I guess in this aspect for us, this was easier. I think for most students, it's not like this. It's rare that you stumbled into a field that is so exciting that you can make a decision at that level and say, I will stay in this field of study. My advice to such persons would be that, just like Dr. Avinash here, he is a doctor already. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't need a clear roadmap already before you take the first step. You can already start if you're just excited about the idea of teaching. Maybe you just start with that. If you're just excited about a practicals you had in one course and you really loved this, you can already start with that and try to find out what it's like doing a PhD in this specific area. But you don't need to have all the answers. That would be, I think we were really lucky that we found something we could already get drawn to so strongly that we are ready to give 3, 4, 5 years of our life pursuing a PhD in this area.
It's difficult. It's difficult. Yeah, I know. I mean, especially
It is.
for young people these days, when they have so much on the plate, it's not just one offer. There are things coming from all directions, and the new word is like interdisciplinary,
Yeah.
multidisciplinary. So when people think of multidisciplinary, what can I actually combine? That in that scenario, you get really confused. Does this really help me in the future? Does it bring anything of any value? So people really want to have instant result these days. It was not back then, like 10 years ago or 12 or
Yeah,
14
yeah.
years ago when I
Ooh.
started my bachelor's. So at that
The
point,
idea of
you
instant
always wanted to
gratification
try
is
just one
everywhere.
thing.
It's yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I'd like to ask you this though. You said you came here straight to do your PhD. Did you really know what the environment was like to do a PhD in Germany? Did you have an idea?
not
Or
at
you
all.
found out when
Not
you started
at
already?
all.
Oh, okay.
It
How
was,
was it?
it
How was it
was
to find out
exactly. I mean,
when it comes to
I
yeah,
still remember. I still remember when I got accepted. So for my PhD, at that on that day, I was thinking, oh, I am going to revolutionize everything because the topic was clear. After my interview, I think they sent me an acceptance email, and they even described the topic that I could, take for my PhD dissertation. And I started, reading things, and I was doing my master's dissertation during that semester. I was supposed to focus on the submission of my master's dissertation and not delve into something new that's much far ahead. And I thought, okay, if we are talking about research, so I really need to impress them. I have to do so much, even before going to Germany. And I didn't even know, like, there's so much to do before you even start your research. There's so much of bureaucracy. And those things never crossed my mind. And
oh,
of course, the environment is very, very different. So in India, you are very much spoon fed, or at least the guidance is strong, or the loop is very small. So you have very limited resources, limited guidance, and you really have to adhere to the rules that have been set up in place. But if you
yeah,
compare to European countries, or let's say in my case in Germany, you're very, very independent, and you will be let loose. I mean, you will be thrown into the cold water without even knowing how to swim.
You learn the hard way. Oh,
Yes.
that's actually what I'd expect for somebody coming straight to do a PhD in Germany from another country. I was talking to a friend of mine, I think, not a friend, a neighbor while I was still doing my master's. He came from Nigeria to do a PhD study here. He had a scholarship. So he came here to do his PhD study. He was so excited. He got here. And, when you get a PhD scholarship, they pay around 1,300 to 1,400 euros. When you're away, when you're not in Germany, this sounds like, oh, this is so much money. Then you come here as a PhD student to start and you realize, oh, it may be enough money to survive, but when you look at your colleagues who went to the industry, they are making this is nothing to them. So my question that I wanted to arrive at was, how was it like to start a PhD and find out that PhD students are earning 50 to 65% and not 100% of the salary? To the audience, the good thing is that PhD students, they do get paid, yes, but they don't get paid a full salary like somebody working with a master's degree. So PhD payments in Germany, to the best of my understanding, range from 50% to 65% positions. So you earn about half of what your mates who went to the industry are earning.
Yes, I
This
do
is this
remember
is
from my
difficult, I
time.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think when I got to know that there are two streams of starting your PhD, either you do an individual program or you do a structured program. So structured program is something where the funding has been sorted out already by your supervisor or the principal investigator of the project, and you're hired on a project or you're hired as a PhD student. That means you are getting paid just like any other job, and you're paying taxes, and then although the position is called 65% position, 50% position, but after paying the taxes, the amount that you receive was still higher than what I was getting in my scholarship. So I was on German Academic Exchange Service Scholarship, so DAD in German,
DAD.
Deutscher
Yeah.
Akademischer Austauschdienst. And this was a scholarship that where I was being paid 1,000 euros back then when I started, and then I think after a couple of years, they increased it to 1,200 euros, but that was still way less than the amount that my
That's
other friends were getting in structured programs where they were hired as someone who would be doing a job. So it was an
I,
interesting part.
I see. So for PhD earnings, how much PhD students are paid, there is a category who come with a scholarship. So with a scholarship, you're earning, I don't know. I wasn't on a scholarship. I don't know what they earn. Between 1,000 to maybe 1,400 euros.
Exactly. So I think depending on the scholarship that you are on, these
Yes.
days there are many resources, or let's say there are multiple institutions that allow students from abroad to do a PhD on the
Yeah.
scholarship. So it does not have to be just DAD. There are different institutions. And I would say if I have to average it down from all these institutions, it comes down to 1,300 or 1,400 euros.
Yeah.
And at the university where I am working right now and where you are, Renee, so they pay 1,350 euros.
For scholarships.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I see. Well, but the point is that one of the things you have to consider when making these choices, you will be making less money than your colleagues who go straight into the job market. Significantly less, at least till you are done with the PhD program. What about the work itself? This is where I've had a whole spectrum of experiences. Some people tell me it's okay. Some people tell me it's really backbreaking. What was your experience like handling the load of a PhD student?
Look, as I mentioned previously, I came from a completely different environment, and I was made to work independently. Of course, there is a supervisor. I mean, I had PhD supervisors who were there in office every day to guide me on multiple things, and there's a lot of preparation that goes in before you actually start your research work. And I really wanted to do a research. I knew it. It was not something that somebody forced it upon me. and that means I liked what I was doing. So, having said that, I was able to take work sometimes home with me. Sometimes I would work longer in office. And of course, there are phases that you have deadlines, you have submissions, and those phases are stressful. And the final phase of PhD, just before your submission, where you are writing a dissertation, you are working almost 24/7, and there are no weekends. Of course, there will be some breaks here and there. You'll be taking some time off, but you are somehow, fixed on this path, or at least your mind works in this way, that I chose this path and I want to continue and I want to finish it what I started. So of course, it becomes unknowing. It is stressful. It is difficult, and it actually gives you moments of self doubt. But I liked what I was doing, and until uh, a point when I think, okay, are my results going to bring some positive change in the science or in the literature that have already been contributed by the other scientists? So these are the things that actually make you feel like, okay, probably my research would be revolutionary. Probably my research is actually contributing something into the field. So these things actually make you feel better. But sometimes when your results are not positive, when I'm collecting data or I'm doing lab work to defend my hypothesis, in those moments, these things become, a setback, that you feel like, okay, the results are not positive. Why am I doing this PhD? I mean, what do I exactly prove afterwards if this has not helped the scientific community in my field, in forensic anthropology? So there are a lot of mixed bag of emotions that keep rolling with you everywhere you go, or in everything that you keep your mind in.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is quite important to see, and I just personally try to put this out there. I've not finished the PhD, but I've gone, hopefully, more than halfway through the journey. I do personally think that the workload is challenging, but I expected this from the beginning. It's important, I think, to tell potential students that if you're considering the PhD path, it will be challenging because there are a lot of that you get too many highs followed by lows. You get really good results and you come close to a paper. This is exciting. And then when results are not there, there are lows. And you should prepare your mind for such fluctuations before you start a PhD. I think this is important. But notwithstanding, I personally am of the mindset that I don't go for things because they are easy. Definitely not. You prepare that whatever comes, you are going to get to the end. It is your choice, and you will get to the end. And have this at the forefront of your mind every time. This is what I have to do. You have this at the forefront of your mind every time. This is my choice. I will not give up. Don't even let the thought of dwelling in the lows, don't even let that dwell in your mind for a long while. Kick it out and say you must forge all the way to the end. I know that when people who know me and have a little bit of experience of have experienced a little bit of my life at work, they would think that I maybe don't experience these lows, or I find it easy based on maybe I'm wearing a smile every time or things like that. But I would say this: I do like what I'm doing. I have a good time doing this. I could sit in my laboratory, if permitted, overnight. I have no problem doing this. But if it were something I didn't like, you won't even know. I would still put in this same effort, and you would still think that I'm having a really good time. And that comes from preparing your mindset before you even start this journey. And I think this should be the same thing whether you go to industry or you stay in the PhD. It's a little more difficult with the PhD because the money is small. When you think you have to work for sometimes over the weekend, or you do 13-hour days instead of the normal 8 hours of work, and you see the pay at the end of the month, it takes some strength to not break down and cry. But if you prepare your mind at the beginning, I think that is very helpful. It does help me when the hard periods do hit me, and they actually do come along. What do you think about my take of this? I think be strong, get through it, and forge on to the end. What do you think?
Of course. I mean, it's you really have to know what you are doing. But of course, I mean, from the point of view that you are working 12 hours, 13 hours, you cannot predict these things. And you asked me about this as well, that I came to Germany to do my PhD right after my master's, and the
Yeah,
environment is completely different. So I didn't know that I would be working long hours. I was not working long hours every day, of course. I mean, as I said, there are phases. Most of the times I was out of my office by 5 o'clock because other people were leaving, and then I saw, okay, I mean, I could actually just do this tomorrow when I have better support, or my supervisor is also there. And in life sciences, when you're working in the laboratories, you're not allowed to stay alone anyway. And sometimes these rules are very strict. So this means even if you have to work something for long hours, you take it back home, and you do some reading, some writing, but you don't have to, stay in the lab for longer hours. This is the perspective that is for life sciences. But if your listeners are from other fields, they can create their own schedule. So this is not just about laboratory, but just a general principle that
yeah.
researchers go through.
Good, good, good. I tend to have this tunnel vision. I look at life sciences, and before I know it, I always forget that there are fields out of life sciences. So I don't have much
Yes.
experience in these because I do not meet so many of these people out of life sciences. When I go to conferences, it will be a life science. It will be an event for life sciences. So these are the people I meet most of the time, and this gives me an idea. Maybe I should expand my horizon a little more and talk more to PhD students out of life sciences.
I had luck. I had luck, like, befriending people from other disciplines at the
Yeah,
university. So that way I had a bit of a work-life balance because I saw people from engineering, people from chemistry, people from physics. They were like, "Oh no, you're not working after 5 o'clock. You should be clocking out at 5:30." And I'm like, "How are you guys doing?" They're like, "Yes, because we are always on time in office, and we are trying to get out on time." And we try not to work on weekends. And I think their motto to finish PhD in time was that they keep publishing, they keep writing. So they were writing regularly as they were doing their PhD. They were not doing their dissertation right in the end. Rather, they were trying to publish papers as the results were coming in, and they accumulated all these published papers together to form a dissertation. And they didn't have to write a monograph like many people these days do. I wrote a monograph. I didn't publish many papers to accumulate them together.
yeah, yeah. And just to clarify the point you just brought up to our audience, in Germany, and I guess in a few other countries, maybe in most countries, there are two ways, at least two that I know of, to complete a PhD. You can get your paper publications, get I think at least two first author papers, or you can just spend the 3, 4, or whatever length of time your supervisor decides. And when they see you've done enough research, then you write a monologue at the end. So you write a thesis, probably going to be a very thick book. So you write this, submit, you defend this, and you get your doctorate. Or you publish at least two first author papers, and then you write a synopsis of these papers. Could be, I think it's in our state, I think it's 30 pages. You write a 30-page synopsis of these papers, and then you have your defense where you talk about the papers you already published, and then you're given your PhD degree. So these are the two ways that you can do this. And you said you went for the monologue. You wrote the
Yes.
thesis. My man, that scares me.
It took a very, very long time. Yeah, I realize now. I would
Oh
never
my.
recommend anyone to do the monograph. Rather go for papers and then just accumulate them to the synopsis thing.
I hope I'm able to get enough first author papers so I don't do this. The idea of writing is to write my master's thesis, which is like less than a chapter of a would-be PhD thesis. My God, I almost cried. Like there was a time I could not sit in my house anymore. So I wish, for me, one of my weaknesses is I don't like to sit and write text for long. I'd rather sit in the laboratory and do my research. Writing a paper and writing manuscripts and submitting, that's okay. But to write 60 pages for just half a chapter, no, 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 no. I hope I don't get to do it. I hope not. I'm not excited about that.
Nobody is. Nobody is. You're just not
so,
prepared to do it.
so
You just do it.
well, if you have to, then you do it.
You have to. Yeah.
And sometimes you can't help it. Getting papers depend also on the type of results you are getting. Sometimes results would throw a curveball that, my God, it's one thing I'll say though, this journey is exciting. Doing a PhD is exciting. You start a set of experiments and you think you have an idea what results to get, but oh my, it almost never happens like that. There's always something you need to find out. I find this really exciting. One question is always leading to the next, and there's always something to do to keep your mind sharp. I
It's
like
like
that.
solving a mystery.
It is a mystery. It's like, yeah, from one to the next to the next to the. I love this life. The many, not so much, but the solving of puzzles, I like that. To close on this idea of how much work PhD students have and how demanding this is, what would you, if you were to advise, say, this is a student who is finishing his or her master's degree and they are worried about how much work they are going to have in a PhD, what would you tell this student would is going to be the main factor to help manage the stress that comes with doing a PhD?
A good question. Very good question. I did not experience these things back then. But after I came to Germany, I see that people in other countries also adopted this method of hiring students to work as a research assistant in labs. So let's say if you are interested in XYZ topic in a particular discipline, and there are professors and there are laboratories that are also working with on different projects, and they always need a helping hand in the laboratories, or if you are from a field of, let's say, some um, economics, if you're
Yeah,
doing your master thesis on the secondary data where you have to go through survey results or some other literature work. There are always ways where students can get acclimatized to the environment, how research is done. I mean, of course, you are writing your bachelor's dissertation, master dissertation, you are working for your own goal. But when you're trying to look at the larger picture, and if you want to really understand how does a full-time PhD job look like, or how does it feel like if I am working on a single question for 1 year or longer than a year and still without any results? So you rather join some institutions. It doesn't have to be just university based. You can join any kind of institution in your field, or even go to a job market where you can get a better look of work life balance, and where you are actually working from Monday to Friday, from 9 to 5 or any other working hours, and somehow get into this routine that this is what my future will look like for at least 3 to 4 years.
yeah,
And if you actually get a position at some research institution, that is even better, because then you get to work with the professors who have enough experience in research. And you really get to see those things firsthand before you can actually think of starting a PhD. You get a tiny version of these routines from other people, and then you think, okay, do I see myself doing this after I finish my PhD? So this really gives you opportunities, or at least you question yourself, can I withhold this kind of stress? Can I be able to make something out of this?
yeah,
And
yeah,
then if you think that this the field that you really want to grow in, yes, go for a PhD position. But it is very, very important that you get some kind of experience before you start your PhD. I would not recommend anyone what I did after my master's. I started my PhD immediately. I would have rather done some kind of research experience, some research assistant, some research associate position for at least for 6 months, if not for a year. And of course, the paid ones. So if you're not able to do something at universities, please go to some startups and some other private companies where they're dealing with health sciences, some kind of lab experience if you're in life sciences, let's say.
that's a good point, Dr. Avinash. That's yeah, that if if I can pick just one of the advices you gave, like look at people who have done this career and see if it's something you can do in the future. That's saying keep your eyes on the goal. Like, remember, this is the career you're aiming for. If this is exciting, focus on that, and it's easier to bear the hardship when it comes. I was about to say if, but I know it will come. So when the hard times come, keeping in mind that you have a focus or something you're trying to get after the PhD would help bear with the stress. Maybe just to add a little more to that, I'd say also that from my little experience, the team that you're a part of when you're doing your PhD is really very, they play a very significant part in how well you're able to bear the PhD burden. When you have good teammates, when you have a good supervisor, the relationship with your supervisor is very critical. So when you go for a PhD interview, these are the sort of things you can already try to assess and see. You may like the job conditions and what it says on paper, but don't ignore the team you're about to join. So that's the only little thing I'd add to the advice you gave. I think this is good advice. These are the things that, if you keep these in mind, they can really help you go through the PhD and not feel so stressed at the end. When I talk to many PhD students, my God, if you talk to most PhD students and you go in for a PhD, then you are a tough, you're a strong-minded person, because most of them make it sound like you will be dead by the time, like you will be beaten to a pulp by this PhD process. I think it's not necessarily the case every time. Having a good team helps. Keeping your eye on the goal you're trying to achieve helps. All of these little things that it's easy to ignore them, but if you really pay attention to these things and have them in place at the beginning, it makes the journey much easier. And it doesn't have to be as scary as many people make it sound. I think most of us can really go through this. A few weeks ago, I was having a discussion with in somebody's channel, and they wanted me to advise the students. And one of the comments that we got was a question was asked about the IQ level of somebody doing a PhD. It's a
Wow.
conception that to do a PhD you must be the most smart people out there. What do you think about such ideas?
Interesting question. I think, as I said, you need to gain some experience, right? So this means it's more like a job for me. Although it's your own question, it's your own idea that you want to defend after submitting a dissertation, and you have to get results according to the hypothesis that you have formed for the question that you have chosen. But if you really have to, be out there just like other smart people, you really have to do the same smart things like they are doing. They are doing just usual, normal, routine things. And really have to ask yourself, can you bind yourself to a certain routine? But of course, having said that, doing science is not a typical routine. Every day there is something new going on. It's not a linear path. It goes up and down, up the hill, down the hill. So I don't think so. You need to be the smartest person in the room, but you need to be the most motivated person in the room. Not even the hardworking. Sometimes you think that you're not smart enough, but you're smart enough, and you don't have to work that hard. And probably it's also sometimes luck that you get positive results for every experiment that you conduct. So in those cases, of course, you are doing hard work to conduct those experiments. You are smart enough to, even forge this path for you, but it doesn't have to do anything with your IQ. I don't think so. I have really high IQ.
Uh,
I started my
Proof,
PhD. I finished my
neither do
PhD.
I. And I'm doing it. The- This is
Yes.
a really good answer. I think motivation is more a contributing factor than, say, intelligent people, and also
Yes,
maybe
for
a
sure.
little bit of being crazy, like a
You
little
have to
bit
be
messed
crazy
up
to start
to
PhD.
do such a
Yes.
thing. But it's not about being intelligent. Motivation, yes, that's a good point. That's a really good point. I've seen PhD students who are like, yeah, not the sharpest tool in the toolbox. I've seen many of such. When you go to conferences, you meet all sorts of categories. And I think also that the answer I give when such a thing comes up to me is, I look at it like students come to the laboratory to do a bachelor thesis. They are in the laboratory for 2 months, they do their experiments, 3 months, and they are done. A PhD to me would be like, a PhD is like doing many of these bachelor thesis strung together. So you do one to answer a question, then you do the next. So it's not like at some point it's a completely different class of experiment. Of course, there is a little bit more complexity in the experiments you do and in understanding the things you do, but it's more or less the same in the sense that it's just small experiments that you string together and you pull it out for 4 years and then you get a PhD. So it's not, nobody should be scared from doing a PhD because they think they are not smart enough. No,
No, for sure, no.
no. Sure, no. So, okay, I think we've given the students what they could do if they are worried about the workload. What I'd ask you, Dr. Avinash, is that having done the PhD, do you think that this, of course, when you finish a PhD, you have to then either enter the job market or continue in research to on the path of becoming a professor. Did you think that getting a PhD impacted what options you had? And if they did, was it positive or a negative impact? Does it make more doors open or fewer doors?
So when I started my PhD, I sort of partly knew that this part of academia is going to be difficult to continue. And if I have to do something, if I have to stay in academia, I will have to do postdoc. And that means I will have to get my own grants. I'll have to get resources, money to fund my research projects. So it's going to be a long shot. And when I started my PhD, or before I started my PhD, I didn't know that I was going to stay in Germany for long. I thought I might go back to India or just move across the world to some other place to start a postdoc and start a life afresh. And afterwards, keep looking for other opportunities or somehow, find my way back home to get a professorship at one of the local universities. But life happened and I decided to stay in Germany. But then I realized if I really have to stay in Germany, I think academia is not the answer to my question, or if I really have to fund myself. So I found a way to stay here, and that was via industry. And coming back to the second part of your question about the impact, if I really have to start looking for a job in industry today, no, I won't do a PhD. I would rather start looking for a job right after my master's. Yes, the prospects are better if you have a PhD degree. They do prefer you over the candidates while interviewing for industry positions. But I would not go through the same path if I know my goal. If I know that I really want to start a job in industry, I would not waste 4 to 5 years doing my PhD. I would rather jump into industry position right after my master's and then grow somehow while I am trying to learn things
Yeah.
in different scopes of different industrial applications or different companies, switching places and then getting better at it. And of course, I'm getting more money for it.
This is honestly a question that I could not answer this. I have I have wishes and I have a picture in mind. I don't know if this will be the case. It is a tough it is a tough thing to figure out. When you finish your master's degree and you go to the industry and your colleagues go for a PhD, after 4 years, if you went straight to work, you have 4 years of experience. Maybe you've gained some promotions or you're close to gaining some promotions and things like that. You are well settled, your career is already building. Somebody goes for a PhD, they do this for 4 years, then they come out of a PhD and decide to go into the industry. Of course, they are coming in with a higher qualification. I do not know if with a PhD you still have to come into the industry at entry level position or you get high positions already in the industry. I don't know how it works. It could be that after the PhD you already come in and they see you have a certain level of expertise and you do
Mhm.
not start at the bottom of the, you don't start at an entry level position anymore. Do you know anything about this?
It's very different. So if you have 100% lab experience in your PhD, I do not have 100% lab experience. So my research question was paved in a way that I was doing non-wet lab research and also wet lab research. But if you are 100% wet lab research oriented PhD student, and you know a lot of techniques, so there's a high chance that you might not have to start at the entry level when you enter the industry. But if you are completely unaware of the techniques or the areas that they are active in the industry branch, I think you will have to start an entry level position.
Oh. Okay. I see. I see. This this is okay. It's not so exciting. My hope would have been when you come with a PhD, you go to the industry, you immediately get to be the manager or the assistant CEO or something. Because it- getting the PhD is not easy, man. It's not easy. And
Yes,
if
yes,
you
it
have to
is
do
not.
this and get an entry level position, the least I would expect is you are at an entry level position, but you are not paid at that level at least. You are paid based on your qualification, not based on your
No,
position.
no, no, no. Every company is different. They have their own agenda, they have their own budget. Things work different in industry as opposed to in academia. So in academia, at least in Germany, things are regulated. So if you have a master's degree, you will be paid a certain amount. But in industry, most of them are running with their own budget. That means they will have the upper hand in deciding what you're going to be paid. Of course, you can ask for a certain quote, you can ask for
Yeah.
your own salary, what you have on mind, or based on the research that you have done about the market. You can try to negotiate. Sometimes it does work out depending on the size of the company, but if you are going for smaller and mid-sized companies, there's a higher chance that you will have to somehow negotiate your way on the lower end of the spectrum.
Oh my God. Oh my. Dr. Avinash, we've been having this chat for already more than an hour.
60 minutes.
Yes. I don't want to hijack you and hold you here, but I'm really loving this discussion. I will try to close it out. I have just a few more things. If you have maybe 10, 15 minutes for us to
Yeah,
discuss this, then I'd be grateful. Yeah.
yeah, sure. Please go
Okay.
ahead.
All right. So, to the point you were making previously, that's not so exciting because one of the difficult decisions one has to make as a PhD student, it's similar to what you make after your master's. Do you keep in the academia path or do you switch to the industry? So it keeping in the
Very
academia
difficult
path, then
question.
at least I have a good idea what this path looks like. What I don't know is what it looks like for a PhD degree holder going to the industry. In academia, of course, when you finish with your PhD, you do a postdoc. Postdoctoral positions are research positions, they are temporal positions, but at least you are not at the level of a PhD student anymore. You've moved up. So it's like, okay, you've moved up to this, and after that, you can become a professor. So that's how it looks like if you stay in academia. But for the industry, I still don't have a full understanding of this. And one not very exciting thing I'm learning today is just what you said. I'm not going to the industry after my PhD to go at an entry level position. No, no. No, not after 4 years of
No, you
sweat
don't have
and
to. You don't
blood.
have
And
to. Maybe you come across a nice position that is not an entry level position. You might be a boss of a big team. Yeah, who knows?
that's what I want. That's why I'm doing this. But okay.
You will. You will. You will.
Uh,
Just wish for it, and it will happen. It
oh
will
my
come true.
God. Oh, I wish it were that easy. But yeah, I'll work for that. One last thing I'd ask before I leave you, Dr. Avinash. I know I can't have you all the time. I can have this chat with you till morning, but that's not allowed because I know you have other commitments you must get to. If if I were to magically just snap my hands and say, "This is Avinash. You know what you've done in the past 10, 15 years of your life. You've gone through your masters, you've done your PhD. This is your career, and I see you have the chance to redo everything. Would you do things the same way?" I ask this question not to be mean. It comes across as a mean question, but I'm asking this just to it's a global way to gauge how satisfactory is it choosing this path. Of course, we know that there are some good things that happen. Yes, but when you want to assess this, you can only assess this properly if you look at what happens in a career path that was different from yours. Maybe something else you could have done. So would you take a path similar to what you've taken already, or would you do things differently?
I would have taken a similar path. But instead of going for PhD, uh, I mean, since I started my PhD in Germany, not in India. So instead of starting my PhD in Germany, I would have come here for masters and then completed my masters and not start my PhD and gain some experience first, see the world around, and find my way back to PhD, I would definitely come back for PhD. Not immediately after
Okay.
my master's, but I would definitely want to have a doctoral degree, a doctoral title
Is
before
it
my name.
is it a pride thing or is it a
It is a
career thing?
pride thing. I think it is a pride thing. If you
Okay.
really want to do these things for salary, I don't think so. It's going to be much of a, it won't really create a really big difference. But if you want to feel good, if you want to do something good for yourself, and you think that you will find your way, you can have resources, please go for it. Otherwise,
Yeah.
if you are only doing it for the job prospects to get better salary, I would not recommend you to do it.
To okay. To Avinash, thank you very much. I think we may have a few questions in the chat. Let me see what uh if any, if there are any questions from the audience before we let go of you. Uh let me see. Okay, there's a question here from Karen. And Karen asked, when you are on a scholarship, how are working hours defined? Are they working hours are there working hours in a PhD and in
So
paper
back
versus in reality question? So on
Oh, so
paper,
on
the
paper, I think there were no working hours set by the scholarship agency, but rather set by my boss and by the lab that I was working in. And I was supposed to work full time, just like any other PhD student. Even if I were a PhD, uh, even if I were a PhD student in a structured program where I was being paid like a normal job, I would have still had to work like a full time worker and would not get any other different working hours that I want to have. And that's on paper, by the way. But in reality, of course, you work much, much longer if you take something with you to your home to, continue working on your PhD. So that's a completely different scenario. But on paper, you will be working full time. Doesn't matter if you're
the
being paid via scholarship, doesn't matter if you're being paid 50%, 65%, you will be
yeah.
working like a usual employee.
So truly, I do not understand the landscape when it comes to scholarships. I I know when it's the contracts, they say a 55% position. The idea is that you work 55% of the time for the institution, and then the remainder of the time you do your personal research, something like this. If I understood Karen's question, so she's asking if this is the logic behind the scholarship. I hope I'm getting your idea right, Karen. Oh, I wish I could throw more light onto what Avinash said, but I have no idea how this is done for the scholarships. I just know they are paid way less. But for people who are not in Germany, this may be the best option they have if they want to do a PhD in Germany, getting the scholarship instead of getting the work contracts. Those are harder if you are not in Germany. I think, just a personal impression. Okay, so I think that's the one question we had from the audience. And please, guys, don't go away yet. We are going to let go of Dr. Avinash, and then we will close our chat this evening. And thank you guys very much. Thank you, Dr. Avinash. So
Thank you so much.
we will then let go of you at this stage. I really enjoyed our discussion. I know it ended up taking up more than an hour of your time. I apologize for that, but it was so. And I didn't even realize we had been talking for more than 30 minutes. It felt like we just started our discussion, and just like that, the time had gone out.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And until next time, Dr. Avinash.
Until next time, enjoy your evening. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. So, guys, thank you very much for being here. I see we constantly had, because we are streaming live on YouTube and on Facebook. We constantly had more than 20 people at every point of the live, which is way more than I expected. I was thinking maybe about 10 or less than 10 people will be present with me throughout the live broadcast. I'm impressed we had so many people consistently here during the live broadcast. So thank you guys for being here so much for this long. To close, I will briefly invite somebody just to for like 5 minutes give us what they think about the advice we got from Dr. Avinash. I will invite Collins with us. Let me see. Let me send a link to him and have him join us live just to close out the discussion. I hope he gets the invite and he can join us. I think it's very important, not just for me as a PhD student, but for potential PhD students to have the chance to pick the brain of somebody who've gone through the journey you are taking or the journey you envision to take. And having Dr. Gupta sit and share his experience with us, I think this was quite invaluable. I really did appreciate his time, and I had a few things that I picked from his discussion and his advice on several topics that I'd like to expatiate or give my extra take on these points. And if Collins is able to join us, that will be exciting. So I can also hear what he thinks about what we heard from Avinash. But while waiting for Collins to join, if he's able to, when Dr. Avinash said doing a PhD, you have to think about the hard work you're going through and have the vision in mind. Oh, okay. So Collins is here with us. Hi, Collins. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I do hear you clearly. I hope the audience can hear you as well. So
Yeah, I can. I can hear you.
welcome,
Hopefully.
Collins. Collins is he's doing his doctoral studies as well. So you're the smart PhD people.
I don't think so.
So Collins, thanks for joining us. Before I ask you what to think of some of the things we heard from Dr. Avinash, please can you tell the audience who you are? We have just about 6 minutes, then we have to close it out.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Renee. I'm Collins, like you said, Etang, and I'm doing my PhD in, let me say, here in Scotland at the University of St. Andrews. But before my PhD, I did my master's as well in Germany, so I know the German system as well. And I usually call Renee my mentor because based on what they said on like Renee's part, he was so fortunate to like get introduced into a topic that he liked. So do I, and that was my case as well. Into the ion channel field, like he said, and I so loved it, and that's what made me to do PhD. So that's how it was.
Yeah. It's personally I know Collins a little, not a little more than probably most of the audience we have here. So I have a little bit of an impression of who he is and what his take is on several aspects when doing a PhD. I won't ask about your experience there because then the conversation would be the next 1.5 hours of
Yeah, of
time
course,
again. But I
of
would
course.
ask, what do you think when I know we play around with these things a lot. Do what you like, do what you love, and then you have the strength to go through this. I think Dr. Avinash also mentioned something like this. I personally do think this it's important. It's really important to like what you're doing. But do you think this is valuable when you're deciding to take a decision to do a PhD?
I think it's very valuable. I think the main thing is what you like and
Yeah.
if it makes you happy because you can be very like you can be very excited at the beginning or exciting to do a PhD or I want to be a doctor, I want to be a doctor. But after 3 4 5 months you get to know that no, I don't want to be a doctor anymore. I'll have choose another path, maybe something money or something like that. So it
Yeah,
should be a decision. It should be something that really makes you happy and you're really happy to do it because there'll be days that you don't want to go to the lab because of failed experiments or something, depending on the field anyways. So there should be a drive that takes you every day to that lab, which should be the topic you are doing. Is it the right thing? If it's not the right thing, then I don't advise anybody to go for it.
I see. I don't have much of an experience when it comes to doing a PhD or whatever in Scotland. But just to see if what Dr. Avinash was saying is applicable across several locations or several countries. I think one of the things he said was very challenging doing the PhD was many it's challenging to manage the amount of money you are getting. He didn't know this at the beginning before he started the journey of doing his PhD, but he quickly realized like money is not that much when you're doing your PhD. And he also talked about he talked about the workload. Is this also some this is something I would confirm it's definitely true in Germany. PhD students don't have money. But is this also something you'd see even out of Germany?
It's the same. It's definitely the same. There's no money in PhD. So if you're going there for the money, it's kind of, it's like when they say they're cajoling you to do something, like give you the money, and you think, oh, I'm going to school and they're paying me for going to school. But to be frank with you, though they pay you, which is very nice because
Yeah,
it's not easy for people to give you the money. I mean, if the money can take off you really well to like live your life and maybe go to school, but it's not like money as compared to like what you guys discussed earlier, like your
yeah,
colleagues that will move to industry. It's good, but it's not much money. So it's not about the money. And you made mention of workload. There's always that workload. There's always the pressure. There's always something to do. There's like you have to do something. So for me, it's like what um,
Dr.
the previous
Avinash.
speaker said.
Hmm.
You work beyond the 9 to 5. So it's stated nine to
Definitely,
five, but
definitely, yeah,
it's beyond 9 to 5. You remember some days you call me as like I'm leaving the lab at 9, I'm 10.
yeah,
That is why it's very important for you to do what you like, because if you, even though you're working beyond the time limit, it's because you want to stay there. You have the options sometimes to go home,
yeah.
but you also want to stay there to do what you like because that's what you like and you want to do the job. So it's all about the satisfaction. It's the workload is beyond the industry workload. It's far beyond the 9 to 5 job. It's at home, it's
Yeah.
writing,
It,
it's
it is
doing
it's
things, it's
definitely.
sleeping and dreaming of the experiments you have done if they fail or they work even anyways.
Oh my God, that's
Yeah.
if just the experiments I've done in my dreams. So
Oh,
if
okay,
I
you
could
it's
bring
good.
this to the table,
It's good.
oh my God, I should have had
It's
my
good.
PhD already. I guess you dream it every time. It's constantly
Every
in your head.
day, every day. And just to add on what he said about you should get experience. I mean, to get experience for me, it actually really depends.
Yeah,
As like you know my options I had when I had after my masters or before I even defended my masters, I had two options:
I know,
whether to go
I
for
know.
the money or to go for PhD. I choose to go for the PhD. So
Mhm.
sometimes it's difficult for you to leave to get this money and then go back to PhD. So for me, my advice is if you really want to do a PhD, it's good to get the experience or lab experience. But then if you have masters, I think you can cope. I will not advise to go. And for me, that's based on my opinion. If
Yeah,
you leave the academia environment, right, to go and get some experience,
yeah.
maybe let me say they are paying you. It's a bit of challenging to come back and get less money. You might leave it at
I
the
see
middle
your
and then
point.
move
I
back
see your
to,
point.
yeah, yeah. So
I see your
it's
point.
really difficult. So it's better as you are like the academic level, the student level, just stay the student level and finish everything. For me, in person, I had the
Yeah,
option, like I said, to go for the money, but then I was
yeah.
like, no, let me just go straight and finish this thing. I forgot about it. And it also depends
I
on the
see.
topic and the
I
opportunities you
see
have.
that once you've started making money to step it down, it's a
It's difficult.
challenge.
Yeah,
It's a challenge. Getting experience definitely is
it's good.
it's going to make the start of your PhD much smoother.
Yeah,
But
but I think the
yeah, most people
experience,
I see going for the PhDs, they come in and they learn on the they learn on the go.
yeah, for the experience to what I said, like I didn't. It's not like I had experience out of academia. I had experience in. I mean, you were my lecturer, basically. But I enjoyed it. You know, I we enjoyed it whenever we had the opportunity. We were always in the lab at home. So that's the experience.
Yeah,
It's not just experience in the lab. Experience in the lab is very good, but you also need this experience of not working as well when you're not
yeah,
working to do something with other people. Which I guess most people that would do masters, especially in Germany, and if you're doing natural sciences, if you're doing masters, you definitely get experience in the lab.
yeah.
If you have to do the thesis, you definitely get experience.
So, Collins, the main reason I sent you the link to join the live was to discuss one thing.
Yeah,
We've listened to Dr. Avinash, and I actually did find a lot of it was very insightful to hear his impression about certain things. Having gone through the PhD process, he's been working for several years already. He left the academia and went to the industry after his PhD. So he's not continuing with a postdoc in research, hoping to go to the professor position. He's not doing that. So after his PhD, he went to an industry style sort of work.
yeah.
Do you think we should? I keep doing this all the time, but do you think it really makes sense to keep advising students to engage in this PhD? Having listened, I know he's just one person. He personally said if he had to redo it, he would get experience and go back to doing the PhD. But when we hear people speak like this, it's difficult, and you might move to the industry and you have to start at the entry level. Is it really worth doing a PhD?
So this question is not like a one-sided question. It depends. First of all, put it straight. It depends on your goal. That's it. And like you said, there's a bit of pride in having the doctoral position. But
Yeah,
for those that really wants to do PhD, let's forget about the pride and everything. There's a bit of satisfaction, that internal peace in you that I've done this. Like sometimes it's like a drive that if you have not completed something, there's something lacking in it. So for me, it's not in the industry is good. I might finish PhD, go and start in the go back to the industry and start in the basic level. I won't mind to. I get your question that you don't want to start in that level, but at one point we all have somewhere to start. There's always a starting point. It might not be the very basic level where maybe a bachelor or a master student will start. Maybe you start a bit higher, but maybe a master student that has been there for 4 years will be above you.
yeah,
But if you don't do the PhD, for those that want to do PhD, there's always that feeling that there's something lacking. And if you don't complete what is lacking, even in that industry, you will not perform at your maximum because there's something always, it's like personal, there's something lacking. There's this feeling that I need to do this. It's in you. If you don't do it, it will always chase you. And wherever you go,
yeah,
it will keep on chasing you. And if you don't do it, whatever you are doing, you will not perform at your maximum level. So you can finish a PhD. For me, if it's what you love, and if there's a drive to do it, and if the right opportunity present itself, go for it. Let's forget about the money. I mean, money is very important. Don't get me wrong. I like money. I like money more than everybody in this world. Yeah, to be fair. But then the
yeah,
satisfaction of doing what I'm doing, that's what is driving me. It's that satisfaction of getting what I'm getting and the topic as well. I love the topic I'm doing. If the right opportunity present itself, go for it. But always look for the right opportunity. Don't just go for it because you feel like I want to do PhD. Like you
yeah,
earlier mentioned, it's a supervisor, it's a lab group, it's the topic. So it's not just like I'm excited to do PhD. It's a no,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
all those environment. But if it's what makes pleases you truly, like for me, it's a drive that has been there ever since I started school.
yeah. For me
I
too,
want to do
I
research,
always wanted to do a PhD.
PhD.
I wanted to do that.
Yeah. So that
But that
drive has
notwithstanding, I wanted to do that with the expectation also that it will give me better prospects
uh,
afterwards in terms of a better earning capacity, a better chance to get higher positions of responsibility, things like that. And this mattered to me, and I thought that I needed a PhD to help me get into these positions faster.
so you might not get to the position faster as you want because you have first of all spent 3 to 4 years doing the PhD. But I guess you might get to that position faster after a PhD than somebody that started with masters.
Yeah,
And responsibility really matters. It depends. They may not give you to the highest level, but just the way you conduct yourself in wherever you're working.
yeah,
Maybe the way you place things, the way you position things, the way you do things, the way you even talk to even people above you, they already give that respect that no, this person knows a lot. So there are already responsibilities that you can be taking because with PhD comes a lot of responsibilities. You need to be on time, you need to write, you need to do the experiment, all those things. So
yeah,
like I said, there's always a level that we start. It might not be the ground level, but it's not going to be right up there like somebody that's having the experience, anyways. But the thing is, with your certificate, I mean, I can't say that because I've not applied for a job. I'm still my second year in PhD, anyways. I can't say anything about that. It's expectations to have more money, more everything, but then the reality sometimes hits us. So we get to the reality at one point.
I think this is a never-ending question. And I think it can only be answered at a personal level.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to make you have to make this choice for yourself. You have to sit yourself and think, what do I want out of life? What sort of career do I want? There will always be some uh, specific the issues that only you can assess, or only somebody in your specific field can assess this. So you always have to take these things into consideration. The best we can do, which is what we've been trying to do this evening, is put these points out there when making this choice. Should I do a PhD or should I go to the industry? Think about these factors. These are the real things on the ground. People who have done it, this is what they experienced. This is where they found joy. This is where they found it difficult. You take this in mind and then you use this to make your own personal decisions.
Decision.
So I think
Uh,
that's the most we can take out of this.
yes, and if I can say one last thing is,
Yes.
in life you get advice from so many people, but then you should know who to take advice from. So you should, like what I call you mentor, right? Because I get advice
Yes.
from you and good ones. For me, they are good ones. Somebody else might not see that they are good ones. So you should,
It's very flattering. But
yeah, it's not flattering. It's the truth. He advised me to enter into this struggle called PhD. Anyways, I love to do it. But then you should always get, you can always, let me say, it's not a must, but you can always get advice from those that are in the field that you think they are portraying what you might like to be, or what you might like to be to do in future. And if it's somebody truthful, they'll tell the truth about it. You should know who you're asking. They'll tell the truth about it. Then you make your decision. You can ask
yeah.
for both field, the industry, or the
Or in
academia.
academia, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So you can always ask both people and then see what they say. Truthful people, because I always tell the truth. Because I've asked
And
people in the
I
industry as
and I
well
think
that how is industry.
it's good to really do that. To to
Yeah,
to 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 ask the people who are experiencing and living these things every day. Ask them, get feedback, or just get ask a couple of people. Just
exactly.
most people are keen to offer advice, good or bad. Most people are keen to offer advice on what they are doing. So talk to a few persons and come to your own conclusions. But I
So I
think
asked one
Dr.
person.
Avinash really helped us to throw the light from the direction of somebody in academia or somebody who went from PhD back to the industry. So he has a good scope of both sides of these experiences. Take these points and maybe they help in making your own decision or in the sort of advice you give somebody tomorrow. Before I yes, you had a question for me or for the audience?
No, 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 it's not a question. So it's
Ah, okay.
it's it's a question I asked somebody in the industry. So I
Yeah.
asked him, is it good to leave PhD direct to industry? Do you know what he told me? No.
No.
He
Oh,
said no. Yeah, he said before you move into industry from
yeah.
PhD, do at least one postdoc. That's what he
Oh
told me
my.
personally. That is nice for the industry,
Yeah.
but do at least. He's told me to do at least one postdoc for I should, if I have the idea of moving industry. I was just finding like it's not like I'm moving direct to industry. It's just to
Yeah.
ask people, senior people around, and see what they think
Yes.
about
Yes.
whatever environment they are. He said he did a postdoc, and to him that was very nice that he did a
Did
postdoc before he went. So he's now in the industry.
did this help him get to the industry at not
So
I
he's at the
hate the
management
entry
level
level
now. Like
position.
he's now right up there at the management level in the
Okay.
industry, right up there.
That's
Like
that's that's
it's
some of the
right up
things
there.
that yeah. I think that I actually have this in the plans to have a similar discussion to this with somebody who have a career in the industry to really see also somebody who never did a PhD at all or somebody who did a PhD and they've had a longer career in the industry and they've grown to see what advice they'd give to us aspiring to do such things. I think it's quite important to
Yeah,
hear from such. That that's
such
that's
people.
that's a tip you just said. Do a postdoc, then go to
If
the
you have done the
industry. It
PhD, he
might
said if you
help.
have done the PhD, do a
Yes,
postdoc, at least one, before you move to the industry.
and on
That
average,
was
when they
his
say
opinion, anyways.
one postdoc on average is 2 years. So
To
most
2 to 3
postdoc
years.
positions are 2 year temporal
Exactly.
positions.
Exactly.
Okay, well, good to know. Good to know.
But to be
That's
frank,
a
they earn
nice
more
tip.
money. I know one person that left postdoc and went to the industry. She's making like good money. I can't say the amount, but it's good
Yes,
money.
really good money.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's good money. If I say good money, then it's good money.
that's good. That's good.
Yeah,
So Collins, I think we have to close it here. We are way above time, but I had a
exactly.
good time, and I thank the audience so much for being here from the start to the end. Consistently, we had. Oh my! I'm really impressed with the number of people who stayed here from the beginning to the end. Thank you, guys. I will be bringing more exciting guests in the future. We'll keep having people give us advice on a few things, whether more detailed things on the desk as a PhD student, as a student doing the master's degree, or just somebody still searching for a position. We will be talking a lot to persons to learn and get tips on how to do these things smoothly and with less stress. Thank you guys very much for being with us here till the end, giving me your prime time today. Thank you. Have a good evening and see you in the next video. Collins, thanks for sharing your thoughts. Nice tip at the end. Take care
Yeah.
and please don't stay in the lab too late. Bye
As
bye.
like I'm going to a lab now, like now.
Oh my God. Stop. You scare
Thank you very
you
much. Thank
scare
you very much.
potential. Okay. Bye bye, Collins, and bye bye, guys. Take care.